All right, folks, so if we're looking at Chapter 1, Basics of Geography Review. This is for your test, your unit test, and your unit quiz, which is tomorrow, 9/20/2017. So if you're watching this in a later year, sorry, it is not for you. Anyway, so I'm just going to go over a few basics of human geography. First of all, when we're looking at arithmetic density. Arithmetic density refers to the total number of objects in an area. Now, this would be similar to let's say you had I'm going to say 750 people per every 250 miles or something like that. This right here means per. You would get a 3-to-1 situation. So for every 1 mile, you would have 3 of whatever it would be. Physiological density is the number of people per unit of area suitable for agriculture. So it's just the number of people per unit of land they can get food from. Which is to say the unit of land from people they get food from. This would be like, can they sustain life? If they have a certain amount of land, can that land grow enough food for its people? Do the physical features of that land allow them to grow food? Now, agricultural density refers to the number of farmers per unit area of farmland. Now, if that's the case, if we're talking about number of farmers per farmland, think agriculture. Sorry, guys, that's kind of freaking out on me, but it should be better now. We're talking agriculture. We're talking farmers per unit area of farmland. That would mean when you are in the agriculture sector, what's your job? You're generally a farmer. Y'all don't stress out about these too much. These are just telling you basically what it is. Now, this next part, looking at different types of diffusion. So there are, if you guys remember, 3 different types of diffusion. There are 3 different types of diffusion that fall under expansion diffusion. Sorry, I just got up and walked across the classroom so I could better illustrate that to you. When we're looking at the different types of diffusion. We have 2 types. We have expansion diffusion, and we have relocation diffusion. And this has to do with, expansion diffusion has to do with the spread of an idea. The spread of an idea, and there's 3 different ways an idea can be spread. There's 3 different ways an idea can be spread. There is hierarchical, which is the spread of an idea through a spread of an idea from people or areas of power down to others. And this would be like, when we're referring to hierarchical diffusion, we're usually referring to something like either like electronics or Fashion Week. So in this case, if it was Fashion Week, we have New York is where all of the big shows are. Then they're going to get their brand out to their different markets. That could be LA, that could be Chicago, that could be Houston. And then from there, it's going to trickle down to other people as well. But it's going to skip over all the small towns and go to big markets. There is a sense of there's people in power. They're going to go to their people in power. They're going to skip over people who they feel like are lesser than. The next type of diffusion that falls under this branch, under expansion, is contagious diffusion. And contagious diffusion, for the most part, it's the spread of something through a group or an area equally. Spread of something through a group of people or area equally. It's really important that you get this equally part, which means it doesn't pick and choose. This would mean, so it's right down here. The hearth is here, which the hearth is where something originates, and then from here it goes to everyone around it, and then it goes to the next layer of people around it, and then it just keeps going all the way around. It's a contagious thing. It's like this is similar to disease. This is disease and religion, and silly bands fall under this. Now the third version here, and I'm running out of room, so the third one, so we got 1 and 2, and these are kind of similar. The other one, number 3, is stimulus diffusion. In stimulus diffusion, you take a basic idea. And from that idea, you have an underlying principle, and even though the characteristic itself doesn't spread, the underlying principle does. So this is the spread of an underlying principle even if the characteristic doesn't spread. And this is like non-stick technology. This is like non-stick technology was developed by NASA for rocket ships. Well, it was developed by NASA for rocket ships and then ended up being used in like home cookware. Another example is touchscreen phones. It's another example. So that is, to put it pretty simply, the different types of diffusion. Then we have relocation diffusion. Those are different types of expansion diffusion. And then we have relocation diffusion, which is when people migrate and take cultural attributes with them. Okay, so that's diffusion, a few things about diffusion. And guys, I did misspeak earlier this week, and I told you that the non-stick thing, that could be hierarchical. It's not. It is stimulus. The non-stick tech is stimulus. Hierarchical can also refer to even language things. Like if a slang starts being used by people in the city, and then it might jump to other other cities and other big cities before it finally gets out to the country, and it might take a while for it to get out there, just because there's places of power that stuff originates from. Okay, so there's that. Now that we've gone through that, the spread of infectious disease is what type of diffusion? The spread of infectious disease would refer to the contagious diffusion. NASA invented Teflon, a non-stick material originally for rockets. It's now used for cooking pans. So we have an underlying principle being used for something other than what its original purpose. This would be, take a guess, stimulus. Now, religion is an example of what type of diffusion? This is a type of diffusion that is spread equally. This is contagious. Fashion trends starting in New York and Paris and then spread to other cities but skip over small towns is an example of what type of diffusion? This type of hierarchical. Vietnamese restaurants opened in Houston after a large Vietnamese migration to Houston. This is an example of what type of diffusion? Think about it. Relocation diffusion. Okay. So it says on the map below, label the prime meridian, the equator, the international date line, and the North Pole. So basically what this is, I'm going to show you a few things. So we have... And guys, this is all this might not be perfect, but we're just going to have to do. So this right here is the prime meridian. We have the equators hitting us about here. Now the international date line is going to be... It's not perfect, but it's something like over here. International date line, and then we have the North Pole, and then the South Pole. Okay. Explain Houston, Texas in terms of site, situation, toponym, and absolute location. So before we explain what Houston, Texas is in terms of those, we have to first know what those are. This is going to show up on your notes that look like this. This is my version of the notes when I did it. Okay. That said, in terms of site, site refers to physiological. So site is physiological. We're going to say that its climate is that it's humid and it's fairly flat. And the next thing we're going to look at is our situation. How are we relative to other places? We are in the southeast part of Texas. We're in southeast Texas. We are about 1 hour from Galveston. This is what we are in relation to other places. The toponym, our toponym, if you know what our city is called, you should be able to get that one. Our toponym is simply Houston. And the next thing it asks us is, what is the absolute location? The absolute location refers to a longitude and latitudinal coordinates. I was going to look at my phone so I could just look it up for you. But just know that absolute location refers to a line of longitude and latitude. how is Harris County an example of a formal or uniform region? Now, a formal region, from what we learned, is where everyone shares in common one or more distinctive characteristics. This is like Montana. Montana, they're all governed by the great state of Montana. Harris County, we could say that Harris County all falls under the purview of the Harris County Sheriff Department. They all fall under the purview of the Harris County Sheriff Department. And that's the least of it. They're also considered, when we talk about areas that are like under crisis, you're looking at Harris County. That's very clearly marked off. It's within, everything resides within a certain designated area. Now, how are airports are an example of a functional region? A functional region is an area organized around a node or focal point. Basically, it's when the airport is here, that's going to make everyone surrounding the airport want to go to that specific airport. Even if you live far away, you might be this might be a place that I'm trying to show you like different layers of people who might go. This was my example of, here's the center point. I don't know how well it's working, but it's a thing. But basically, what if you lived all the way over here and there was another airport over here? Then you may go to this airport instead, but pretty much everyone surrounding this airport is going to attend or go to that airport when they have a vacation. It's basically the area organized around a node or a focal point. Another example we've done at this is 104.1 KRBE. Houston. Vernacular or perceptual region, that's the activity we did in class. This is your mental map. This is the hardest one to define. Mostly because it's people's own perception of the world around them. Now flip it over to the back. This map says it's the global wealth map. This map shows global wealth. So, what type of map is this? Well, as we can see when we look at this map, we don't see Africa anywhere, which is concerning. There's no Antarctica. So, what we know is that this map is a cartogram. A cartogram purposely distorts a map based on a certain, whatever it's measuring. Two things we can learn. Africa does not have global wealth. We can also know that South America also struggles. Alright, what is the most common type of map and what are some issues with this map? This is when we're talking about different types of map projections, and we talked about the most common is the Mercator projection. And some of the problems that come with the Mercator projection are it's distorted at the poles. It's distorted at the poles. Another problem that it has is that like Germany isn't in the right place. And because of that, those are the problems we have with it. That's the video that we watched where it said it wanted to do the Peters projection and then flip the whole world upside down. It was pretty crazy. Okay, the next thing. England is located at 0 degrees east-west. Tokyo, Japan is located at 135 east. So the first thing we want to do is draw our number line. I told you guys I'm a big fan of this to help you understand what things are. Okay, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135, 150, 165, 180. Okay, it's not perfect, but it'll have to do. So if at 0 degrees we are in England, and at 135, which is 65, 50, 135 is here. So if it's 11 a.m. on Tuesday in England, so if it's 11 a.m. here, what time is it in Tokyo? That'd be 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should be 8 p.m. And then Houston is located at 90 degrees west, and Italy is located at 15 degrees east. If it's 9 a.m. on Friday in Houston, what time is it in Italy? So again, we're going to draw this out. We got 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. And then we got 15 here. This is east, this is west. Okay. So we start here at 90 degrees, and then we're going to try to move to 15 degrees east. If it's 9 a.m. on Friday, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be 4 p.m. Friday in Italy. And by the way, this one should be 8 p.m. Tuesday. Now, provide an example of environmental determinism. Environmental determinism means people are a victim of their environments. Whatever their environment is, people will obviously succumb to it. They can't help it. An example of this would be Jamaica. Example of possibilism, people can do anything they put their minds to, and if they want to change the world, they can change the world. An example of this would be Dubai. How did Ptolemy contribute to geography? Well, let me tell you. He did all the things. Okay, Ptolemy codified the principles of map making. All right, here, how did Eratosthenes contribute to geography? He actually coined the term geography. Next, explain the graph to the left and provide an example of this phenomenon. So this right here is referring to something known as, so you can see distance, and it shows like a shrinking level of interaction. This is referred to as distance decay. Just the further away you get from something, the less you care about it, the less it matters. For instance, the further away you get from the hearth of an idea, it could be the lesser the influence. It could be seen that that's the lesser the influence it has. For instance, I'm going to pull out my handy dandy textbook and give you an example from there, because I can think of some things, but I want to be sure I'm giving you guys ones that make the most sense. That was my the old Nickelodeon show, Doug. That's what it sounded like when they would have their opening lines. That's pretty cool. Okay. Distance decay. The farther away someone is from another, the less likely the two are to interact. Contact diminishes with increasing distance and eventually disappears. This is kind of like the idea that long distance relationships end. The idea is that when someone, if you've ever heard the term out of sight, out of mind, distance decay means the further you are away from someone, the less contact you are to have with them. But it's also referring to, like, if you move from Texas to Ohio, you are probably not going to get as much Mexican food as we have here in Houston, or I say Mexican, it's really Tex-Mex. You're not going to get the same Tex-Mex you get here because you're further away from it. You're further away from the hearth of where Tex-Mex lives. And when you go to another state, you're going to get kind of pulled further away, and so there's going to be less of that thing wherever you are. It's just like how people's accents change the further away they are from their home, and the longer they're away. All things. The article, American Geographic Ignorance, what are 3 reasons the author provides for Americans not caring about geography education? One, they said, was geographic diversity of the U.S. They said generally just the distance. We're fairly isolated. And another one they said, what's another one they said? They talked about in general kind of people fear travel. Alright, now next. We're almost done. I'm so excited. Alright, for each of the following places on a map, provide their line of latitude or longitude. So the equator runs at 0 degrees. And that's 0 degrees north or south. The prime meridian runs at 0 degrees east or west. The international date line is at 180 degrees east-west. The North Pole is at 90 degrees. 90 degrees north, 90 degrees south. And then largely, the last thing we're going to look at is scale. What is scale? Remember, scale is the thing that kind of determines what part of the map you're looking at, how far zoomed in or zoomed out you are. This is the thing where I told you larger number is the smaller the scale. A larger number implies like 10 million to 1. If it's 10 million to 1, it's going to be like, here's the whole globe. Whereas if it's closer, it's going to be like, that's some really good drawing Texas. That's what Texas looks like. So if you're like, I can't even see anything. That's what Texas looks like. Well, this is going to be like 100K to 1. So, larger the number, the smaller the scale. The smallest scale here is the one that's the globe that looks like this. And that's things here, and then shoop, shoop, shoop. I don't know. I'm really good at drawing the earth. Okay, guys, well, I hope that kind of went over a few things for you. Just be sure to read over your notes. And I look forward to seeing you folks tomorrow. Have a great day.